To do the whole intro again.
We're going to have to do the whole intro again.
Physics.
And for us, at least the people hosting this, hello for a second time. Welcome to the major update stream of Stellar Parallax. We're going to show you a lot of things tonight. With us, we have a lot of people today. It's not just... oh, I didn't mean to do that. It's not just the regular small group of people streaming. It's a way bigger group. With us today, we have...
Just say that was audacious of you.
Yeah. With us today, we have Bane, who's been a long-time coder and friend and one of the core team members of Stellar Parallax.
Hello, hello.
We have our testing coordinator and, well, he points out pretty much a lot of bugs, Caesar.
Hello.
We've got Connor, who does a lot of ships and renders for us.
Hello.
We have Farb, who's the particle apprentice.
Hello there.
We have not war criminal Goldukat himself.
Well, you know, it's only fair, isn't it? You know, they got what was coming to them. Anyway, moving on.
We've got Keeper of the Lore Orion.
Hello again.
UI artist and visual extraordinaire Sir Hoblington.
Hello.
And of course, coding expert Sovereign Echo. And of course, myself.
Hi.
So, and special guest LeVar Burton, if only Ness. Well, what we're, you know, what you're seeing here on my screen is STA3, and now you're thinking, you know what, STA3 is not exactly freezing right now.
Not exactly big news.
Oh no. Oh, this is
Okay.
not going.
As intended. He done fucked up.
Well,
Well, I tried to
Tim,
put
man,
Sins in full
this is
screen. That didn't
technical
work.
difficulties. The stream.
Yes.
Because sins, right?
Wouldn't be Stellar Parallax if otherwise.
Yes.
We do try.
So,
We do try.
what I was showing you guys is STA3. Now, before we get into the nice new stuff that we do want to show you, we've got a lot of things to show you. We want to go over some of the update things that we've got going in STA3. Now, the loading screen may still say STA3 Uprising, but Keith, if you could tell us a bit more about what we're also changing in the title and maybe segue into that in your first segment.
Yeah, so and you can see it says Nemesis inside the game. So STA3, obviously 8-9 years in the making, where it all started, obviously led by the glorious Max from the off. So kudos to Max there for starting the whole shebang, and obviously myself, Connor and Chris Gull, as you know him, have been long time members of this, and obviously everybody else who's in the stream has worked in it in some fashion, and I'm really happy with the team we've got today, still working on STA3, and each of them today is going to give you a little bit of segment on what they've been doing with the mod. But I think it's fair to say STA3, we left it with Uprising in a pretty good place, and Uprising came as a shock because we didn't expect another release for Sins, and obviously that added the minor factions, and it was a bit of a stretch to get all that done, and the guys worked really hard to get that release out. True. But we found ourselves in a position that there were still things that we had never done that we wish we had done in the journey to bring the game into a better level of balance of content, and really to give that sort of Deep Space Nine era feel to the mod. So without further ado, what are we doing with STA3? Well, if I start with the core gameplay mechanics, we have not touched something called the constants, which basically define how damage interactive armor in the game. We've not touched those since 0.95, so about 8 odd years ago. And
nobody needed to know that.
it's a long time, but what we have done is we've now reworked those entirely, and it's been a bit of a stretch. It does mean that we've had to rebalance literally every single ship, whether it be militia or a player controlled ship, in the mods. And what that means is that in the early and mid game, your frigates and your corvettes and your smaller ships like the Excelsior, in comparison to the end game Akiras and Defiance, now have relevance again. So with these constants, it's quite possible for a group of smaller ships now to take on a much larger vessel, and that is true to kind of Star Trek lore. We often saw these situations where a pack of smaller ships would attack one of our hero ships in the series. So now you can rely on these ships to actually do damage. So to give you a good example of this, for example, we have ships like the Steamrunner class, which is that kind of modern artillery kind of vessel. That's really good at taking on things like Akiras with its heavy torpedoes, but it's not so good at hitting smaller ships. So we've added in, if you like, a pinch of the fantastic work that Echo has done with AOTF to STA3, but we've also tried to reserve the feel of what STA3 has been all along. So, and it's been an incredible journey. So the core gameplay, as I said, very much changed, and I think anybody that's played the mod before will have to get used to sort of relearning each faction, because along with this kind of rebalancing has come working on each faction individually and trying to just get those levels so that each ship feels unique. And each faction will have some ships where the corvettes, for example, may not be good against the same target. And so you may find, for example, if you're playing the Romulans, their corvette is really good against larger ships because they've got this plasma weaponry, whereas you'll find the lovely Federation, the Miranda, they're really good at taking on frigates and, you know, sabers and those kind of ships, Razalax, etc. So you're really going to have to try to get used to those new ships. What I'm going to do now is just kind of hand over to individual members of the team to kind of talk about the areas that they've worked on, and of course do keep tuned to the news posts as we talk about gameplay more as the weeks to come, as we start to gear up with Armada 3 for a release later this year. So I'm going to hand over first of all to the lovely Orion to just talk a little bit about some of the stream changes he's been making to really get across the information about abilities and things like that in the mod. So Orion.
Quick question, guys. Is this better? I know you said that Keith was a bit low, but I turned his volume up. Is it all better now? This is just towards chat.
We await your command.
Testing.
I put the volume up. Don't worry. But should be all right.
All good.
Right. While that's happening, I'm showing some gameplay off in the background, and you'll see some nice new visual surprises while we're at it.
Yeah. So over to you, Ryan.
Okay, well, over the years since the release of the Final Frontier, there have been a number of issues with players not really understanding what certain abilities actually did. Especially, it was what was her name? Amberenia. Amberenia was working on our strings back then, and I love his enthusiasm. I really don't want to undo any of the work he did, but especially with the Klingon faction, you just, for the life of me, couldn't understand what the abilities actually did. So I've been going through them ship by ship, ability by ability, and just basically making them clearer, making them more understandable.
I think we can show it over here as well. If you look, for example, here at the Excelsior class, when you hover over now, it here has an effect.
Yes.
Decreases targets.
The first sentence of each description will be just a quick summary of exactly what it does. So I've tried to keep as much of Amberenia's work as possible because he was, if anything, a bigger lore expert than I am. But when it comes down to it, when the ability descriptions are written in Klingon,
God, he didn't.
He did. So yeah, bless him, but yeah, they just need to be a bit clear, and so I've done the Federation of the Klingons so far. I'll be finishing it up shortly. So
Brilliant. Brilliant, and Orion does work exceptionally hard, guys, to bring you some fantastic descriptions. So
I
and
wouldn't say I work hard.
well, I've always admired when you do your
I barely work.
your comments on like the images and stuff, and I think you've now epitomised the phrase "dat aft."
Let's not forget the Romulan busters.
Yeah,
I'll be able to mention on the stream.
That's why I kept it to busters.
The stream file is truly gigantic.
Shall we hand over to you, Max? I think just to talk a little bit about the updated visuals, because I know you've got some exciting news about STA3 that you want to share about some of the visual effect changes.
So there are a few new models in Sins, and some visual tweaks. Now the visual tweaks are going to be shown off first because I think this is something everybody's wanted since we got it working on AOTF1. So wait till the combat starts.
Way to spoil it.
No one will get it from that.
Here we go.
Oh, it looks like crap.
It makes me giddy every time.
You've paused the game, by the way.
That's a delay in the stream.
Oh, right, okay. Excellent.
Yes, we made the phaser effect like AOTF, like they travel. I'm glad you like it. Now there are some other visual tweaks we have, but I'm going to need to do some spawning for that. Let's start with.
They are pleased.
Let's go with finally. That was a model which was a bit on the weak side in game, and it was a Titan. And I'm not talking about the Polaris, but I'm talking about a completely new Titan model for the Excalibur.
Polaris can never be described as weak.
There she is.
It fits a lot more better visually, doesn't it, with all the other ships that we have from that era?
Is this better, by the way, guys? For the rest?
Sound wise?
We'll find out.
I'm sure probably that's better.
And I think it's fair to say that Max has been brilliant at supporting STA3 while single-handedly working on the AOTF mod as well. So
Well, I've not been single-handedly working.
Well, on for the visuals, obviously lots of other people work on visuals as well, but I mean for the ship production, of course.
And he's been working on that other thing too.
Yeah.
There's another thing that I want to show you, but it's not a fed ship. Romulan. Yes, we have a new model for the Valdor.
How may I serve?
But I think I want to change the skybox so to kind of show it off better.
Folk seem to be really, really pleased with the new Excalibur, so thank you very much for that, Max.
Hey. GH. Yeah, this is a decent
one.
There goes a bit more neutral.
It's also a lot better optimized as well for Sins than the old model.
We've got a new model for the Valdor. Excuse me.
Favorite models.
There you go. Go Danubes, kill that thing. But yes, it's in my opinion a way nicer looking Valdor model.
And
the details on the hull are just lovely.
yeah. And Max, could you
There's another
show off
one.
the two Keldons as well?
I will, but I'll need to set up a quick game as the Cardassians, I think. I think it's Romulan.
The Praetor will be pleased.
Did we replace this model in the end? No, we didn't. I thought we did. Never mind.
I think you considered it, but it would have taken so much time because of the particle effects.
Ah, yeah, that was the reason.
Yeah, with the old Planet Busty McDoodle Daddle.
Then there is indeed some new there's a new Cardassian vessel. We have a new Cardassian cruiser Keldon, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Our heavy cruiser is the Sea Heavy Cruiser Keldon. This one?
Yes,
spawned it.
heavy cruiser. That's the one. That's
I spawned it for the Cardassians that we're facing, so this should be interesting.
And then you
And
should
by
have
interesting, you mean brief.
there's a scimitar in that. Gravity well.
And an Excalibur.
Get your looks in now, everyone, because it's not going to be there for long.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no Keldon, there's no scimitar. Sorry, there's no Keldon, there's no
Glorious Cardassian.
What Romulan?
as you can also see, as you can see, all factions have. Have you thought about reworking the Sovereign class at some point? I'm sorry, does the Sovereign class not look good enough? I mean, I'm sorry, but this is a really good mesh. I see no reason to change it.
And if you just want to spawn the cat Keldon as well, Max, that's
Let me
okay.
spawn a couple of them.
Damage
Yeah.
off.
Can we get an F in chat for all our spoonheads?
Yeah.
No, they don't deserve it.
And just give us a close up on that.
Oh god.
Oh, you didn't!
I see a question about the Keldon being a cruiser. You should probably explain why there's now two variants of it.
So yeah, that's what I can do that quickly. So first of all, I just want to thank you to Hobbs for taking the time to retexture the capital Keldon for me to the Obsidian Order. That's correct. That is an Obsidian Order logo on the Keldon class. So the reason is we were trying to rebalance the mod, and what I felt is that it needed an extra cruiser on the Union side to really to bring that faction into balance. It was always very hard to make the Galore fit because it kind of sat in a really weird place between kind of like the Excelsior and the Akira with the refit. So what we've done is we've actually brought the Galore down and then put the Keldon as kind of like a heavier cruiser variant at the top end. So your Keldon class heavy cruiser for the Union is kind of like your Akira-like equivalent now, and has some really cool abilities. And whereas the capital Keldon is still there, but to differentiate the two, we've retextured it and we've given it the infamous, as I believe Max calls it, blue deflector and orange.
I disagree with the decision visually. I understand with it and I accept it.
Yeah.
But
So,
not for anything
The
else,
nicest thing he's ever
Hobbs.
said.
Yeah. So it's gone.
I think Hobbs just wore you down.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's
Yeah.
the accurate way
He's
to.
like-
Just to show you, we've also done some audio changes with the Cardassians because we now finally have.
Oh no, it's a Jem'Hadar.
D.
They came from
No,
behind.
I meant H.
Stay on target.
They finally have the accurate beam sound.
Looks like the AI is noping out with those corvettes.
Now it's an infinite chase.
Here, she's a,
Let's confuse everyone, shall we? Our people have a proposition for you.
Doing what the Obsidian Order does best.
How are those Excelsior
Something
still
wrong.
alive?
So I think just because I'm wary of time, that kind of brings us nicely onto our next section because I think we could talk about visuals effects all day, and that is amazing the way STA3 looks now. So thank you, Max and Hobbs and everybody else that's been involved in doing that. I mean, we staying on the theme of visuals, I'm just going to quickly hand over to the lovely Farbicus to talk a little bit about what he's been doing around particle effects and sounds.
Yeah, thanks. I've been mostly going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Orion is undoubtedly the master of strings these days. I just
don't go that far.
I look for typos, grammaticals, just things that are weird and weirdly formatted. Any errant artwork replacing stock sound effects, stock particle effects, and some. But my biggest project has been going through all the frigates, cruisers, capital ships, and titans to make sure all their abilities have satisfying particle effects, so that they all look nifty.
And what are you working on at the moment, Farb, in the particle effect world of STA3?
Well, let me bring up my list real quick. My biggest project is going to be some groovy things for the Sona battleship, but it seems that their abilities might be up in the air at the moment. So until those are hammered down, I'm going to hold off until we get them solidified. And my goodness, where is it? All right, here we are. Yeah, really, I've gone through all the frigates and cruisers. It's just capital ships and Titans that are remaining. I know people have had some griefs. I think it was you, Bane, with the Borg Reaper beam. Prettify that a little more. But the big one right now is going to be the Sona.
Yeah, fantastic. And so thank you, Farb, as always, for your input and doing all that work as well. That's been fantastic. So really, as you can see, guys, there's a lot of work going into STA3, and I bet a lot of you thought that there wasn't any more to do, but there's always something left for us, and we've been quite excited about it. And now I think, without further ado, because again, wary of time, we're going to hand over now to Caesar's Legion, who is overhauling the Planetary system in STA3 to try and make it a little bit more simplified, I think. So, Caesar.
Hello. Yeah. So again, just to echo previous statements, everyone else's work is fantastic and has been for a very long time. The Planetary rework, the core reason for re-examining the planets dates back to Final Frontier, where the original vision was kind of like a Stellaris format in terms of that sense of wonder and unknown. Unfortunately, because of the way Sims is fairly restricted in that regard, there's a lot of overlapping roles for certain planet types. There's a lot of planets that have very bizarre figures. So the big one that stands out to me is the Colossal Rogue, for example, which has a very high population count, which for a planet that doesn't orbit the sun doesn't make too much sense. So that, in addition to some outliers for logistics, so the Class K adaptable variant, for example, results in some very disproportionate planet spawnings, and that combined with a fairly outdated planet spawning, random planet spawning GSD, means there's a severe imbalance in the types of planets and consequently the types of militia players can face early in the game. So part of the Planetary work is to try and reduce the range of certain aspects, so population range, for example, shrink that a little bit so you don't have such extremities which some factions take a lot of advantage of, and other factions can't take as much advantage of. So that also includes asteroids, so the refinery factions can't gain as much advantage from refineries compared to the non-refinery factions. Bringing the logistics slots back in sort of a degree of condensation, so that it's easier to understand what types of planets are going to have what types of logistics. Something we're going to be looking at is redefining how defenses work, so consequently tactical slots are being updated and standardized, and then further to that, the planetary upgrade costs are being standardized as well, so there won't be any outliers that have a ludicrous metal and crystal costs potentially if they've been missed in the past. So it's all about just condensing some aspects. So for standardized planetary types, you can have a core that's you know what you're going to have and it's not going to be way out of there. And then for a number of the TFF sort of expanded universe sort of gravity wells, there might be a few oddities on them, but they'll then be, once we look to reevaluate all of the maps that we have, we can incorporate them into TFF themed random map that's a bit more single player oriented, has that random aspect, and hopefully doesn't screw a player over with horrendous sonar or Kesok or I've forgotten what they're called now. Sons of Tamara.
What?
The
Children of Tama.
Oh, the boom boom
Children of
chips.
Tama. Children of Tama. That's the one.
Tamara-
The meme race.
The meme race, yeah.
So hopefully it'll once it's done and complete and implemented, there should be some improvements for not only those who want to play competitively in terms of planet spawning, but then also those who have a more single player orientation, not getting as dicked over by the random spawnings.
Brilliant.
And I think it's important to note that speaking about that, once the planetary rework is complete, we will take a look at pre-existing maps. There have been one or two reports that if you're playing as, well, player 0, but player 1, sometimes player 2 or player 3 really struggle because the planets that they have in their local environment aren't conducive to them expanding as an AI. So we will take that into account as well, look at those maps and try and make sure that everything runs smoothly for the AI.
Yeah. So thank you, Caesar, for your update and all your hard work as well on the planetary system. So guys, I think that kind of brings us nicely to a kind of end of our section on STA3. I really hope you've enjoyed hearing about the love and passion from the team that's gone into what is quite an old mod now in the Sims world, but still very near and dear to our hearts. And I know we have said it many times before, but I am officially now going to say that this is absolutely going to be the last version of STA3 that we're doing. And to that end, one of the things we will be doing that Max alluded to at the very beginning is we will be changing the name back to just Star Trek Armada 3. And you may have noticed that on our ModDB page. So absolutely, this will be our kind of final hurrah. So that's why it's taking a bit longer than just the standard balance patch, and that it's actually going to be a final release, if you like. Of course, if Ironclad do something crazy and force us to do an update,
I was going to say, with exception of them adding more DLC, and we have to make it compatible.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that we've seen the end of the DLC, if I'm being honest, for Sins, but I never say never in this one because I never thought we'd see Uprising. But nonetheless, we thank you for being with us throughout our journey with STA3 and the fantastic community you've been over the last 8-9 years. And I do recognise some of the names in the chat that have been with us all the way through. So
I know, right?
From us to you, it's been amazing. From us to you, thank you so much for supporting us. And that is STA3. Enjoy when it releases soon.
Oh, I lost my chat. Yes, this is a cube. I wanted to also show off that the Borg also have a unique kind of traveling beam effect when they fire. So that's yes. While we're going to leave this segued, we're going to let this segue into Sovereign Echo, talking a bit about AOTF1 before we get ready for the big reveal. However, we will be still streaming STA3 in the background because I don't have a copy of AOTF installed at the moment. That is due to a lack of C drive space. Thank you, Sins, for not allowing us to change the mod folder.
Yeah.
Sins.
All right. So, AOTF1. We've gotten a lot of feedback about AOTF1, and while many people do like it, there have been some concerns as well. And I've been working, when I've not been working on the super secret thing, on a patch for AOTF1 to improve a number of features. Let me just bring up my notes.
Crew standing by.
So internally I've been calling it the balance and ease of use patch.
Also known as the anti-carrier patch, right?
Yeah, that's the main feature as well. So some of the main complaints were, one, the AI spams carriers like there's no tomorrow.
They love it. Can't
they,
get enough of it.
Oh, do
I
they?
hate
Do they
Sims
spam
AI.
carriers? I didn't remember.
Never noticed.
No.
And this is a concern in AOTF1 in particular.
Why would that
not
be?
only because carriers are not very tricky, but also because carriers in AOTF1 are also planet bombers, which means when the AI drowns you in a swarm of 20 carriers and defeats your fleet, they can then subsequently bomb out your planet within 30 seconds as well. This is something that we were aware of for a while, but it's quite difficult to change what the AI does and does not do. So I have been tinkering, and I have an experimental fix that should make the AI build way less carriers. So that's the first part. And I know a lot of
I
people
think
will
it's
be happy
important to
about
note there
that
that,
patch.
The fact that we had carriers as planet bombers and we had them in that dual role, it makes them double sexy to the AI, so they just never stop building them, do they? And
Yeah.
it's certainly something that we need to consider from a role standpoint.
Yeah, and speaking of roles, one of the things that I've been putting special attention on is reviewing the ship roles, making sure that two elements go into this. Firstly, that each ship has a clear role in terms of what it is good against and what is not good against, because while they do have counters, they're very mixed counters in the current live build, and it can be a little difficult to say that if an enemy has a fleet composition of X, you should counter with Y, because of how mixed the counters are. So I've been trying to simplify the counters to make sure that they're more clear, and not only more clear in terms of how they work, but also in terms of player-facing information. So right now, in the live build, it's very difficult to find the information about what ships are good against what. And, well, inspired by what Orion's been doing in SJ3, I've been tweaking a few of the strings to read things like bonus damage versus X class on the build menu. So you will know immediately at a glance in the build menu what ship to build to counter a certain type of enemy.
Just to answer White Wolf's question, yes, that will mean the AI won't spam carriers anymore.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I fixed the AI spamming carriers. So, let me just go to my notes. One of the other complaints was the difficulty of AOTF1, and while there are some elements that are intentionally quite intensive to manage for the player, like the lack of auto-casting abilities, we never intended for the game to be so difficult as to be not playable by the average casual single-player player. So I've been trying to make sure that the lower level AI is not quite as ridiculous, because at the moment the AI tends to be on easy. It can often be completely useless, and then you put it on normal and suddenly it has 20 carriers in your system by 20 minutes, which
Slight problem,
is not
isn't
intended.
it?
So I've been
The
reworking
4-minute
the
war.
bonuses that the AI gets to make sure that it's not useless, but that it's a good level of difficulty at the lower difficulties, and that if you want the challenge, you do actually have to put the difficulty up. And I've also been taking a look at the tech tree to remove some of the stuff in the early game that looks like it would be useful, but actually is really a bad idea to get in the early game, which is another thing that can catch a lot of players out, especially players that aren't intimately familiar with how Sins works. So once those techs have been moved or removed, the tech tree should flow nicer for players, and it should just generally be easier to get to grips with AOTF. And that's the majority of what I've been working on for the AOTF1 patch. I suppose along with the tech tree, is AOTF1's economy is somewhat different to traditional Sin's economy in that it focuses more on structures. And yet some of the structures that are quite critical to running the economy well are locked quite deep into the tech tree. So I've been moving them much earlier, and in some cases removing a tech lock entirely on the faction's signature economy structure. So the trade port for the Federation, for example, is available from minute zero. You can build that right out of the gate. And the Klingons have the refinery and the Romulans have the culture station, which should make it much easier to get your economy rolling. And subsequently, of course, easier to face the AI. And that is everything for AOTF1.
All right. Draconian says go.
Nice and easy.
Draconian's very happy to hear your
before
voice again, by the way, Chris.
Oh, thank you. Have you considered any broader economic changes that you would like to introduce to Ages of the Federation in order to kind of push different factions down various different paths, or is that something that you are satisfied with it as it stands?
I'm reasonably satisfied with it as it stands. The tech trees are already set up to accentuate different aspects more for the different factions. Getting any more into that would probably require some more heavy rework of things like the planet stat. So, for now,
Lord.
for now, I'm happy with that, and mostly focusing my attention on the super secret thing in terms of more in-depth reworks.
Mr. Alvi Riachis, by the way, says watching this battle brings back memories. Think I've an itch that needs scratching once the next version is out. You're always welcome to join us in the Discord, mate.
He's always got the horn, hasn't he? Just can't help himself.
Yeah. I think this is the right moment to go to the reveal. Is everybody ready for the reveal?
Greater good.
The greater
Good times
good.
ain't it?
Let's do this thing. I think it's time we do this.
That's from Thingy, isn't it?
Toy Story.
No, the greater good is from
the
Borderlands.
greater good.
Borderlands 3 is like we'll do it for
Greater
the
good.
greater good. Well,
The greater good.
are y'all ready?
Great big bushy beard.
Tats.
Considering you see that I don't start up a different game, this is indeed for Sins of Solar Empire. So let's go for it.
Never heard
Watch
of
it crash and load up.
Prepare your bodies.
Well, this is different.
What does it mean?
It means you have to wait.
The video's 3 minutes
stand
long.
by.
People don't want to watch that again.
No, we're not going to do the video again. No, it's 3 minutes that we can't spare, really.
After
Welcome.
whole minutes.
Welcome,
It's also
ladies and gentlemen,
outdated information.
to the main menu of Ages of the Federation, the Border Wars.
It's like
Boy
L-Cars. It's not
intensifies.
L-Cars.
That's L-Cars. That is
It
L-Cars.
is.
It even goes L-Cars noises. So,
Now,
Who
of
wants
course, as we begin, disclaimer, this is very early on in development. If you see some dodgy stuff, we'll fix it.
so
Oh,
let's
maybe not.
let's go into a Devil Planets map, shall we? So you can see
You
we've got a
could do
very
test two.
different new single-player menu. Oh, look at that setup. This,
Click on test 2 for a moment. I want to show off something Hobbs has been doing.
yes. I think Random Small has that as
What
well.
have I done
doesn't
now?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Map maps.
I did that.
Yeah,
So you
you'll
can
be
now
able to
see the map layout.
in the
Huh?
lobby.
Pretty nifty. I
Very
did that.
useful. Yes, Draconian, you do see Cardies. But it's so much more.
Oh,
He's making happy
he'll see all
noises.
sorts of things in the next menu.
So let's select a flag for us. Well, you can see that we've got a bunch of different class races. There's some other mentionable stuff here. So let's go for a nice... I like the TMP era flag. Who doesn't like the TMP era? You guys love the TMP era?
Klingons?
Oh, the TMP.
Let's go for
Tomalak.
it. Let's pick yellow. And let's give them the central command.
Draconian, that does mean Goal's voice has returned because we wouldn't want to use anything else.
That's not true, actually.
I
We're
think
not
my
using it
voice
for the
has been
computers this
vetoed the
time.
hell out of there.
Right. I didn't sign up for that.
Don't
Yes,
worry,
but
guys.
it's-
Don't
yes.
worry. Submod.
Yes, Centurion, but as the more perceptive of you realized, it's not called the border war, but the border wars, plural. So, Hobbs and Echo, how about you two tell us about why we've got two Federation factions?
Shall I cover this one, or?
Yeah,
want
you
to?
go for it.
All right. So, shall I tell? I suppose we're time conscious, so I'll leave that one for another time. But
Faction
basically,
split.
basically we have a faction split, as you can see. Now, this is true of all of the factions. So, essentially, there are 8 unique factions in this mod, although they're not
Asterix.
all completely different. The Federation is the Federation, either way. However, First Fleet uses all of the modern starships,
Well,
which are mostly
not all of them.
modern for this era. For the
That's
most
true.
part.
Speaking.
These the First Fleet focuses heavily on elite modern ships, mostly from early TNG.
Well, but not all of them early TNG. I mean, the frigates
Not
you start
all
out
of them.
with.
Yeah, some older
they're-
support ship.
Do we want the
Their
nitpick the year,
focus-
or do we want?
Is on modern TNG ships. They have a few TMP ships. The 8th Fleet, on the other hand, makes heavy use of TMP ships. Now, I didn't want to make this just a visual split because, well, it would be ridiculous having things like an ambassador face off against the galaxy and be equal. Because
got
they're
things
not
for
equal. So, particularly in the military area, the factions are very different. They have some shared aspects in their tech tree, and some different aspects in their tech tree.
Let's show them the first bit. Start at the thing.
Nearly completely unique ship rosters as well.
Yes. The first
Fleet
piece looks
focuses on having the tips pick around what kind of ships. Yes.
kind of
yes,
true.
That's
Yeah,
true,
that's true.
relatively inept.
Right, but as you start, I mean, the game does kind of have a logical era progression, because you do kind of start out in the TMP era, don't you?
Yes.
Let
So
me
they
let me
still
really
have-
turn up the music real quickly.
They still have a number of earlier ships, like, for example, the Oberth.
Stand by for evasive.
Bang.
And I
No,
just want to
Bob.
highlight that Max has done an incredible job improving a number of these models for use here.
Hailing frequency open.
Shall we show off what we have ready of the fleet?
We have
Yeah,
most of the Federation ships ready, except for a few civilian ships.
Show
the
them
full fleet
curvy
reviews in
phaser
order.
strips.
So,
Yes, building some research labs in advance.
So
We'll need
let's,
to talk about that shortly.
So let's talk about
Dun, dun,
what
dun.
what kind of ships the first fleet have got. So for one, we've changed ship classes. There's a lot of different ship classes now. A
So,
lot of different ship
There
classes.
are a lot of ship classes still, but
Not as much as
we did-
before.
we- I didn't want to make this a direct successor in terms of mechanics
Complete.
to AOTF 1. Well, it's not really the right.
Somebody
phrase.
say Akula in the
Still a
chat.
successor. I do quite like the Akula. Very pretty.
Such a sexy ship.
I felt that the AOTF 1 ship rosters were a little overly bloated. And rather than fill out the ship roster with as many ships as we possibly could have, I'm focused more on making each ship more impactful and important, and really defining its role heavily. And so there are a few less ships within each faction. There's usually about 5 or 6 in each size class, so there's 5 or 6 frigates, 5 or 6 cruisers, and
Give the word.
usually 6 or even 7 capital ships. But each one of them will be very clearly different. And we've got a few brand new role types in here as well.
Starship complete.
Like the science and exploration ships.
Starship complete.
Which one is the Soyuz again? Is that in the other Fed faction?
I believe the Soyuz is in the other Fed faction, yes. It's the science ship for the 8th Fleet.
Science frigate, yeah. So let's show off some visual stuff while we're at it. Well, some of you might have noticed when we zoomed into the ships, Farb here did a brilliant job of giving every ship that we've got in the game so far on the Federation side accurate little blinking lights on the ships. The models themselves have been vastly improved since STA3 and AOTF 1, any that overlap.
Complete.
And as for weapon effects, well, we'll show them to you in a minute. So the frigates, as you've noticed, include mostly TMP ships. And there is a single capital ship, I think that's a TMP ship as well, for the First Fleet.
No, I think so.
The Excelsior.
Well, they have the Yamaguchi.
Yeah, they have the
and they have
Excelsior as well.
Excelsior.
So let's show off the cruisers first. Let's spawn those over here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So as you can see, this is not into deep of the this isn't deep into the TNG era. This is like the stuff that gets blown up at Wolf 359. Your primary fleet of cruisers in your mid to late game are the Wolf 359 era ships, which have gotten a serious overhaul. The Cheyenne no longer has an unrealistic deck. As
Cheyenne doesn't look like out of proportion hot mess anymore.
It is now
you had to-
acceptable.
The deck that you had to crawl through.
Every ship has had serious model overhauls, like modeled-in phasers. The entire Springfield here has gotten its cannon pod. There's some other little visual changes. I don't know if you can tell on the stream, but every window that is off, you can see it when I zoom in here. Every window that is off is reflective to the skybox, just to show you how far we went into it with visual fidelity.
Hit him with that on the ambassador. It really shines on the ambassador.
We've got the we've done the same kind of visual effects as well on the Bassards and on everything metallic. We've gotten some really great overhauls on the models. The Freedom's got its Diddy deflector as it's supposed to have at the bottom.
That's massive gun.
I'm still trying to figure out what the extra American on this thing is, but I haven't found it.
It's the massive gun.
Yeah, I just assumed it was the gun.
Okay, well, there's a massive gun underneath which it's supposed to have.
That brings freedom to Cardassians and, well, any other species alike.
There's a Challenger that still needs a bit doing. Look, the Challenger even has the wonky deflector. Ooh, a wonky escape pod. But it's not.
Shield your eyes.
I love the Challenger.
So let's go to the capital ships now. We've also got some new stations here, and some really nicely visually improved Regular 1, which is one of your research stations.
It might be worth pointing out right now before we forget, because we might do otherwise. It's important, guys, that if you cast your eyes across the UI, it's not finished yet, clearly, but if you take a look at the style of the UI, and as we progress forward looking at other things, keep your eye on the UI.
Yes.
Let's, while we're at UI, we'll show off some other things in a minute. You might want to pay your attention to your credit and your other stuff, because that's not a credit symbol anymore, is it? It's something else. So one of the things we did decide is we got completely rid of all Titans. There's no Titans in this. We're not using the Titan mechanic. What we instead got is a new class called the Battleship. But just to point out here, this is the only TMP capital ship that you get, which is a reworked, really sexy Excelsior.
It looks really good.
So Echo, if you could
God,
talk
I
about
love
some of
that
the new ship classes.
Well, so there's. I need a document in front of me. One moment.
Just before that, could you, Max, Parade would like you to show the frigate, the Akirari frigate. It might be a cruiser. I can't
Oh
remember.
yes, oh, I'm sorry, I've totally forgot about that. We've also have one unique ship, which is unique to the mod, which is the Rigel class, mentioned on screen but not seen on screen. We've taken a design by Bernd Schneider from the Starfleet Museum. No, not Starfleet Museum, the Advanced Starship Design Bureau, I think that's the one. And we've interpreted it, which is basically your advanced cruiser, which we hope you all feel fits well within the Wolf 359 fleet. We all kind of realize it's kind of a proto Akira / proto Norway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like having the design lineage in there, personally. And you'll probably see a lot of that ship because, as the advanced cruiser, it's one of the more powerful combat ships.
And as Orion mentioned earlier, you can really see the window reflectiveness on the engineering hull of the Ambassador.
Yeah.
Which has also got several overhauls. This is, by the way, the Yamaguchi refit of the Ambassador, which has got all cannon bits it's supposed to have. It's a bit dark on here, but it's got the secondary shuttle bay underneath. It's got the lowered pylons. The Bassards look way better than they did before. Different sensor dome, different deflector dish. So yeah, it's got some changes as well. The Niagara finally got its visual overhauls that it needed, so it no longer looks like a third-rate ship.
It actually looks pretty good now.
It actually looks like something Starfleet would build and not, throw together at Yoyodyne.
Yoyodyne.
So
when you need something, we'll slap a pod on it.
Not enough highlighters for me.
One thing that Max has been very diligent about doing with all of these ships, that I'm sure you'll notice as he's zooming around them, is he's looked at the bits that perhaps should be raised from a model standpoint. For example, phaser strips, or the little phaser nipples. I don't know what they're actually supposed to be called. And he's modelled. Yeah, you know the things.
What in the balls?
The phasers are stored in the balls.
In the blue balls. They and he's actually modelled all of those features in, whereas previously we were using, was it normal maps? In order to
normal maps.
Fake depth.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have those modelled in now. Because
other little changes is tweaking the brightness of the Bassards, a completely new deflector array to make it look a bit nicer. Which, funny enough, wasn't necessary on the Nebulas, which now also have some really good visual tweaks.
Although I think the Nebulas need some.
Yeah, they still need the new model changes, but they've got the texture tweaks.
So, since we're looking at the Nebula and the Galaxy, we now have two main combat capital ship classes: the battleship, which the Galaxy is, and the attack ship, which the Nebula is. And the battleship is sort of what once was Titans, I suppose. They're the top level capital ship, end of the tech tree material, but they're not world destroying monsters. A battleship will pretty handily defeat pretty much any other ship in the game one-on-one, but they tend to be more focused on fighting in one-on-one. So typically, if you just try and send out 2 or 3 battleships and expect that'll handle everything that they throw at you, if the enemy comes at you with 15 birds of prey, for example, you might be in trouble, because the battleships don't have the rate of fire and multiple weapon banks necessary to deal with all of that.
I suppose in some respects,
so let's show some other.
In the show, we always used to see the Enterprise get banged
And-
essentially by multiple ships, and it never did well, did it?
Let's show off some
what it
nice.
was doing.
While we do that, let's show off some other new visual stuff that we've been working on. Trying to get the camera right.
And that's largely why I decided to do this with the battleships, because the same is true of the Vorcha, which is the Klingon battleship, or in the plans at the moment anyway. Whenever the Vorcha came up against a bunch of birds of prey, it would kill 1 or 2 of them, but it didn't typically win the fight without outside intervention. These ships need support, but if you do support them, they're monstrously powerful.
So I hope people
Da
caught that.
perfecto.
Also zoom in on it while it's at warp. They can hear the new sound. Hopefully.
Hope that's a bit audible, guys. But before we do that,
Now-
before we talk about more about ships, let's show off some about the UI, because some of you might have noticed that there's a Ferengi flag in the market section. Now, our good friend here, Mr. Hobbs,
Hello.
has made some really nice looking UI, as you can all see. He's done an amazing job on this Elcars UI. I don't know how he managed it. It's magic to me. But one of the things he's done is, you might know that the pirates are now going to be Ferengi, and what would Ferengi be without the Ferengi Stock Exchange? Just remember, all commercial activities must strictly adhere to all relevant Ferengi trade bylaws, but the buyer agrees to take responsibility for any and all unforeseen costs during and after transaction. The Ferengi Alliance accepts no responsibility or liability for goods seized by customs and or law enforcement. The buyer agrees that all transactions are non-refundable without exception.
While we're on
You
the
do that
black
again in your
market
tech
subject,
voice.
Do it faster.
I've
If you want
reworked
me to
some
read it
elements.
again, do it yourself.
I've reworked some elements of the black market, and been looking more heavily into economy changes. It's now
that's not
quite
done.
a bit more expensive to buy resources from the black market, as you can probably see in the top right. So you should probably try and make sure your economy is actually fairly good, instead of relying entirely on the Ferengi to sell you resources, because they will rob you blind.
They will rip you off.
Speaking of the
Speaking
Ferengi,
of robbing you blind,
speaking of robbing you blind, if you want to do business with the Ferengi, you can't use something as credits. What do you use? Gold pressed platinum, which is your new resource that replaces credits.
hmm And on the subject of robbing you blind, the Ferengi will be the pirates, as was
Yes.
mentioned already. And they will have very Ferengi-like mechanics. For example, rather than trying to kill everything necessarily, earlier weaker pirate raids from the Ferengi will instead be focused on showing up and stealing things like credits and population from you. Maybe some trade ships as well, because why not?
Rule of acquisition number 34. War is good for business.
And while the later raids will focus on destroying your stuff instead, their raids will also be coming along with Latinum haulers, which will not be armed, or minimally armed perhaps, not particularly tough either, but they will have a large cargo of Latinum, and if you destroy them, you will be able to take their Latinum.
Right. Well, that's a good. That's nice that we've talked about that now. Oh, I need research for that. Damn it. So let's talk about the other faction, and as you can see, the UI is a bit different. It's a very TMP, isn't it? It's
So
This is the 8th fleet.
in AOTF1 we went for like a unified UI because I was lazy. But this time
Just
I've
do that.
actually pulled my finger out and tried to work out how to get it working with
There she
different
is.
factions. So, oh god damn it! How can I talk when you got that on pure filth on the screen?
No one heard anything else.
Yeah, it's just a bad. Send it to warp and then make them go nuts.
Status report.
all right. Let's send them to war.
But yeah, so each faction will have their own unique UI in game. So it will, make it a bit more.
Centurion,
better.
as a dev team, we also want to play the
Everyone
8th
hold onto your pants for a second because this is just.
This is, yeah.
Hold on to your butts.
The mind is going to be blown.
Oh my god.
Silence. Everyone's in awe.
This is my faction already. No question.
Reverence.
Just
No more talking. Let's just enjoy this.
No talking. No go.
your Star Trek.
You're ruining the experience.
Well,
since we've
since
arrived,
we've
at a
arrived here-
wormhole, shall I talk about this?
No, let's not
probably
talk
find
about this
ones
one.
that
No, let's
have
try the other one.
actual model.
Yeah, let's do the other ones later in a second. Let's first show off the 8th Fleet, but let's do it in a place where we can have some appropriate enemies to face them.
Oh, this should be fun.
I think they are in the next system over. Yeah, they're in the next system over. Now, I want to know which one of you guys here in the chat has played Starfleet Command 1 and 2.
Well, all of them, because they're watching this.
Well,
so
they
I
better
hope so.
have. And if they haven't, we will not like them anymore.
I haven't.
We'll like them. We'll just
Relatively
execute them. Orion,
there will
can
be
you
a
come
mod
over to my
page
place?
after this update, I believe. After the stream's finished, I believe.
Starship complete. Starship complete.
So let's have the frigates here, and then we'll spawn the cruisers here.
Starship complete. Starship complete.
It is our greatest aspiration.
That one's not done yet. Go away.
Back off.
Status report.
And then let's spawn the
How
capital
goud.
No gout! And let's spawn the capital ships here.
Starship complete. Starship complete.
Right, so, Centurion says ISC? No, but you're close.
Although I believe they are planned.
They are planned. So let's show off some of the 8th Fleet ships, because they have a bit of a different fleet. So the Akula is still your attack frigate.
Okay.
Yep.
However,
This is
your
bad.
exploration frigate is now a Saladin refit. So Saladin refitted with a space wax pod. And then for our what class is this again? I don't know. It's
Well, that's the science ship.
Soyuz is a science ship. We've got the Antares variant of the Miranda for the heavy frigate.
Heavy frigate. Yep.
Then we have a special class which only the 8th Fleet has, which is the Abe class torpedo cruiser or torpedo frigate.
Mhm.
Then, of course,
the
as
angry
long-range
boy.
ships is the Angry
Angry
Oberth, which is known as the
So
Jester.
angry.
It's a very angry Oberth.
It will finally
angry
have its
chihuahua.
revenge.
It's just pure rage.
Now to pop over to the cruiser lineup, there are some different things. We've got here as your exploration cruiser. What else could it be? You just saw it in action, but that's you finally get to play with it. You finally get to have it. The Constitution refit. Then your
Fast cruiser.
Fast cruiser is your Constellation class, designed for intercept duties and border patrols. Then for your
Frequency open.
Science cruiser.
Science cruiser, yes, Science cruiser, yes, Science cruiser. You've got the Marco Polo
Marco
class
Polo.
from a comic series, and then these are 2 new ships. Now, what are these? This is the Korolev class. Yes, we know we have a Korolev in AOTF1, but this is again based on a sketch by Bernd Schneider, which
Show
is
him the face.
oh yes, no, that's not this one. It's
No,
the
that's
other
not
one.
that's not that one. All right.
It's a Spokane, which
Oh, that's
which is
right.
which is your heavy cruiser, I think. if I'm not
Advanced
mistaken.
cruiser.
Advanced cruiser. Yes, sorry, your advanced cruiser, which you can see it leads into the ambassador lines of ships, which is going to be one of your the same role as the that other ship we showed you off earlier, the Rigel.
The Rigel, yeah.
It's a different kind of mindset in Starfleet. And then finally, one of my favorites, an absolutely beautiful ship, your heavy cruiser, which is the Balmung, which is the perfect blend between Excelsior and Ambassador in my book. And I
That's
think it turned out
glorious.
beautiful.
It was originally designed
And
by
it is.
Backboy Fish,
Yes, indeed.
which
Covered in weapons.
redesigned quite a bit just to
Well, not by much.
not by much now, but
So yeah, it's got some. I think most changes are on the top here. I think he had that different the impulse deck.
and a
Yeah.
smaller saucer.
Yeah, with the less obvious slide in the angle.
I believe we made this ship a little smaller overall compared to
Yes.
the original as well.
I really like the Balmung's Deflect Edition.
Although it should be noted that this is the size of a lot of the smaller capital ships, so
Yes.
expect a lot from it.
It's a big
Pretty
boy.
beastly cruiser.
Now let's go to the capital ships. Let's move these around a bit because they're a bit in the way.
Initiate scan.
Standing by. Initiate scan.
So I think this is your exploration capital. This is the is you get the come on,
no,
get in.
That's the
Let's get them into the light. It's annoying.
Lakota refit or Excelsior
attack.
refit. I don't know. What are we calling it? I'm
Excelsior
calling it
2?
the Biz
I
mod
know.
for now. Because of SFC. That is your attack capital.
Hailing frequency open.
Which is your first real capital ship that you get, isn't it? Or one of the first?
Yes. It's the first capital ship the 8th Fleet has, although they'll build it in the pre-refit.
Yes, basically the Excelsiors will get kind of visual, something that make them visual distinct for each faction. Both factions will start out eventually with the standard Excelsior initially, and at a certain point you get a refit option, and the First Fleet will get the glowing nacelles, kind of how they are in STA3, and the 8th Fleet will get the Enterprise B version. So each faction will be unique. Let's move over to the Curry, which is the Fleet Tender.
Fleet Tender. Yep.
A lot of people hate this
She's
ship.
a nice lady.
She's the ugly duckling of the fleet, but please be nice to her.
It's Richard the
Grows on you.
massive overbite. It's like,
Now let's talk about another SFC ship made by Connor here, which is the Shuttle
Yes,
Tender.
Royal.
it's had a few design tweaks, but
So while we're looking at this, we've partly because of the AI, and partly because mechanic is difficult to deal with in the Sims and balance, we've removed carriers in the traditional sense and replaced it with ships like this, the Fleet Tender, which can
Shuttle
spawn
Tender.
in shuttlecraft. Shuttle Tender, sorry, I said Fleet Tender. Whoops. It can spawn in shuttlecraft and probably some of the fighters from SFC as well. But they will be essentially frigates in terms of how you control them. Which means they'll have abilities, and they'll have the ability to go to warp. If their ship should have warp, they can have shields.
They can have abilities.
Yes, said that.
So be ready. So be ready for things like scatter packs and
I'm
wild
taking
weasels.
as much inspiration as possible from SFC, so scatter packs will be a thing for sure, as will wild weasels and assault shuttles and suicide shuttles. It's going to be good.
We have here the
All sections on standby.
Spokane.
Show the
Spokane.
face.
which has got a face which goes. Oh, some enemies showed up. Well, I was going to show off the combat, but let's first show how these Hydran freighters are going to get treated. Trade ships are going to get attacked by these TMP ships.
Hail Hydra.
Yeah, Hydra. What are those they're shooting?
Those aren't phaser beams.
I don't know, but they're stored in the bombs.
Oh gosh, all of these ships massively overshooting. Oh dear.
They're shooting from the phaser
way.
nipples.
You're like, all head full.
It's not
Gotta kill the
overkill.
Hydra
It's
trade
assurance.
ship.
We await your
fair,
command.
them overshooting is probably what would fix the
Open
endless
hailing
flight syndrome,
frequency.
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So let's move back to the capital ships and show off the ones that we were going to show. So the Spokane is the science cruiser, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
A science
Small
capital.
ship.
A
but-
small capital ship. It's an Excelsior variant based on the Spokane by Michael Wiley.
But you don't want to underestimate it.
And then they 8th Fleet also gets an ambassador, but
I
this
see somebody's got eagle eyes over there in the chat.
somebody does have eagle eyes. And then the ambassador is another capital ship. I think it's a tank cap,
It's a combination tank and exploration cap for the 8th Fleet.
which is the Enterprise C
quite
variant with the different dome, with the different deflector, higher nacelles, different bassards. So there's some visual distinction between the two.
Yep.
She's gorgeous.
Which leads
Apollo.
into the Apollo. Now, I don't know if you're watching, but your physical model that you're building's not really accurate to the mod. We wanted to tell you. We really wanted to tell you. We really wanted to tell you, but this is
Yeah.
our take on the Apollo class design.
Yeah, we saw the pictures he posted up, and we were all like, oh.
It's like, oh no.
But this is your command capital for the 8th Fleet, and it's quite.
Don't
big.
underestimate its weapons, though.
And that's all of them, and there are no others.
Not a lot of photon torpedoes on that pod. Now, where is it?
So finally, an ambassador won't be equal to the Galaxy class. So let's take something that never graced it on screen, but let's make it really good. Introducing the Andromeda class battleship, which is the 8th Fleet's equivalent to the Galaxy. The ship that never was, the ship that we all wanted it to be. It's based on the Andrew Probert design for the Ambassador class with some minor design changes because nobody likes a wobbly deck.
Yes. Nobody likes a wobbly deck, and I mean, that is prettier than a Galaxy, I'm gonna say.
Controversial.
But is it better than a
He's
Galaxy?
right, but controversial.
It is not better than the Galaxy,
No.
but it's pretty close.
But
You command this well, and you probably will be able to take out a Galaxy with, but you will need to do a good job.
so let's show some Hydrons, because the Hydrons
Getting
are erased from
wrecked.
SFC3. So let's start viewing them here. This is, the Hydrons are erased from SFC3, which SFC2, sorry, which Undying Nephilim has completely reimagined the looks for onto a modern screen.
And they
And
look
it was
so good.
originally planned to be the Enterprise C before. It's that stage between when the designer comes up with an idea and when the budget people go, "You're mad." And then we ended up with the real
Convex curves? We don't do that.
It's like, good lord, man, that would cost as much as the actual Enterprise to build.
All right, guys, ready yourself for this. The weapon effects on the Hydrons are just superb. I love them.
Now,
Now, the Hydrons are just
With the
one
hy-
of the planned minor factions based on the SFC series.
and I fully intend to make sure that you will be able to purchase and control directly their ships. So, for those of you who are fans of SFC,
Royal turnaround.
Yeah.
you will be able to.
Arc Royal, just do an Arc Royal thing.
You will be able to run
Hold your beer, I
SFC
got
ship.
torpedoes.
Some of the mechanics from SFC, of course, cannot be translated to Sins, but I'm trying my best to make sure that some of the unique weapons, like Hellbores, have some degree of mechanical effect matching their gorgeous particles. Of course, with this many fed ships, the poor buggers aren't going to last very long.
You'd be surprised at how strong these
Yeah,
bastards are.
Yeah, some of them are pretty nasty.
Like explosions on the water.
Oh, there's the arc roll. Don't worry, guys, I'm here.
Finish your pace.
It's just standing back there like, guys, I'm helping.
Helping. Steve.
Aurelius would like to know, the heck is SFC? All right, guys, get him.
Get him, boys.
Oh, that's a controversial comment in this sort of stream.
Starfleet Command. Starfleet Command, according to Ashwise.
Skeet, skeet,
Command.
skeet, 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 command.
Down!
Alright. So, we've seen the Hydrons, we've seen the 8th Fleet smashing some Hydrons. Time to boldly go
Where
where
no one has
gone
gone.
before.
But let's do that through dev mode because it's easier.
Yes.
Let's first start out with
Go to the
the.
Metreon Nebula.
Shall we start with the Metreon Nebula? Yeah, let's.
We should start with the Metreon Nebula.
Let's spawn a ship
So-
here. Can I select this gravity well and then spawn something
you
in
should
it?
be able to select the center of the gravity well, yeah.
I'm gonna
so-
grab the first fleet science cruiser
in
for
a-
this. What? Sorry, exploration
That-
cruiser. I
Yeah.
always switch those two around.
Engaging engines.
Just make sure it's got the ability. I'm pretty sure it does. Should be the fourth
Yes.
slot. Yes. Right. So,
Ah, the classic ability, string not found.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, one of the things that I was never particularly happy with in any of the Star Trek mods, really, is that they're all about combat. Star Trek is about more than combat. Star Trek is about exploration.
However, Sins thinks otherwise, usually.
It's about family.
Well,
It's like,
Sins
it's like poetry.
support
Rhymes.
family. But
Nothing to report.
in order to bring some exploration into Sins,
Engaging engines.
I've been hard at work in the code mines,
Energy.
devising a new system for research.
You thought we had code monkeys, no, we just have Echo.
And I'm calling it the Anomaly system. Now, normally in Sins, to progress your tech tree, you would build a science lab on one of your planets. And you can still do that in AOTF 2. However, it's going to cost a lot of money to do that instead of
room.
using... Yes, and slots. Instead of using your exploration ships.
Nothing to
Yes,
report.
that's
Yeah,
an
you may see
alternate.
some-
It's a very alternate, an alternative way to gain stuff. But before we get to the exploring stuff, because there's obviously something to
Might want to
scan
turn the
here.
autocast off.
Well, yeah, the autocast is. But it looks like there's some
Mhm.
other things in this gravity well, but it looks like it's a bit dangerous in
Indeed.
here. So let's see. Let's
So-
just.
Dangerous nebula.
Dangers that were not militia ships is another thing that I was focusing on.
Nothing to report.
And we devised essentially a system to create space terrain that's not just you're in a Metreon nebula, you're taking damage. I was never particularly fond of that mechanic. It can be a bit difficult and frustrating to deal with. It just encourages you to never go to the nebula
Order
instead of
acknowledged.
like trying to work your way through it. So instead,
Oh, what was that?
we created
Engaging
nebula
engines.
lightning.
Adjusting course.
The
One of the
lightning
dangerous things we've created.
will actually strike the ship, and it only has a limited range. So
Engaging
when you
engines.
arrive in a gravity well like this, if you zoom out a little bit, the icons are TBD at the moment, but you can see the triangles. That's where all the nebula lightning is. And if you click one and hold down Alt, that is its threat range. As long as you stay out of that, you can traverse this nebula just fine. Perfectly safe.
Does require a
get
little bit
into
more
that.
micro.
Yep, you can order your ships to move around them, and with shift click, for example, to give multiple move orders. But if you get near one of those lightnings, it's going to do a lot of damage.
Course laid in. Order acknowledged.
Well, let's
Waypoints
move out
on
of
your
range of
friend.
that. And let's move out of range of that. We're out of range. So let's start scanning this anomaly. Well, what does it do? It's I don't. Let's see what happens if we scan this anomaly.
Hailing frequency.
It's a very
course.
odd.
Anomalies.
Very good for shoving down the throats of Sona.
Well, Metreon gases, but let's. It also says one of the more important things to note is look. It says scan with an anomaly. Scan with an exploration ship.
Indeed. And when you scan an anomaly, it will count as having a science lab, but only while the ship remains scanning it. So essentially you can get free science labs by sending out exploration ships across the galaxy, finding anomalies, and scanning them.
Our planet
Now,
is under
as long as the spring field
up.
remains in place,
Wait. Our planet
What?
is under attack
Oh.
by Cardassians. And the Federation ship, which hasn't been replaced yet with the Cardassian ship.
Heavy
Let's-
breathing.
Let's just solve that. Wait a minute. That's not any Cardassian vessel I know. That's a new one. It's like we're designing new Cardassian ships for this mod. Oh my God.
Ah, the string not found.
or the Cardassian only faction
Oh,
that you
yes.
can play as.
Yes, a fully,
Both of them.
fully playable Cardassian faction. Uniquely Cardassian.
Everybody complained that there weren't enough Cardassians, so they're giving you 2 Cardassian factions.
Let's get the Balmung to deal with that thing, shall we?
Oh, yes, Cardassians. I see you know your judo well.
Get your hands off my Connie.
Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
A succulent
Yeah.
Bajoran meal.
We have to let the Australians say this one because that's where it did originate.
So let's send in the Balmung because that's
Just waiting for a
Get your
moment.
hand off my penis!
This is
Yeah,
democracy.
Cardassians are quite a bit less further along than the Feds are. So they have quite a few string not founds and placeholder Fed ships and things.
Oh, that poor Cardassian. He's getting his head kicked in and he's just sat there waiting for a mate.
I should also notice, by the way, that Balmung fired 2 special torpedoes, which are what are they? Proximity torpedoes, which is a passive ability. It can wait. This is not okay.
Oh, don't do it.
My God.
Quick, look away!
What have we done?
You were the chosen one.
Also, we have overhauled all.
Balance of the board and not this.
Yes. Do it. Yes, a little more.
They came from behind.
Sometimes the Balmung will fire its proximities and its regular torps at the same time, and you get truly immense torpedo volleys with that.
No, I can't watch.
My God, bro.
No.
What have I done?
There's nothing left. He's gone.
It's very sad.
Another one.
Get out! Get out
Let's
of there!
go back to the Anomaly. The Cardassians will be fine.
Screams and Christopher
Don't worry
Lloyd.
about that.
Screams and Christopher.
I think I suspect that I've got the perfect picture for this.
Great.
Max,
This should
you know
solve
what
it.
to do.
Suddenly, Andromedas.
You
No,
brought this on yourself.
Nope, not doing that.
Show them. Show them.
Nope,
What are we showing them?
nope.
Back to the cloud.
Back to the cloud.
Yes. The hand cloud.
So as you can see now, by the way, it is friendly coloured, which means it's mine.
But if the ship is attacked and you want to defend yourself, then you'll have to stop scanning the anomaly to defend yourself. At which point, the anomaly will return to being neutral. And if the enemy comes and destroys you while you're not looking, for example, again, the anomaly will return to being neutral, and you will not have that lab available to you anymore. So this can create some really interesting gameplay. Like
For example, if
exploration
you
rushes.
Yes, for example, if you catch an enemy off guard, you could disrupt their research and suddenly make their ships weaker, or them not being able to build certain things anymore.
And they may be able to rush end of the tech tree ships like the Andromeda if they focus on sending out lots of exploration ships and scanning all of the anomalies, which will leave them vulnerable to early attacks. But if you don't attack them during that time, well, they might come at you with a Galaxy or an Andromeda.
Speaking of which, there's also a thing like if you want some better protected anomaly ships, there's an exploration frigate, which is the weakest of them all. There's an exploration cruiser, which can hold its own a little bit better. There's also an exploration capital ship, which, yes, it will cost you a capital ship slot, but you'll be able to do a lot more with the anomalies sitting there, and it'll also be way easier to defend itself.
Spawn in a ambassador, and we'll show them what it can do.
So stop scanning that.
Yep.
Because the labs will scale as well with the ship, won't they?
Not directly. So if we bring in an ambassador, capital ships have a custom version of Scan Anomaly, which not only scans the one that the ship is at.
Are the particles assigned to this?
Yes, they should be.
I think it's just the wrong way around.
Yeah, I know. I'm just checking the.
Around. It will also scan every anomaly in the gravity well simultaneously. So if you get a gravity well with 3 or 4 anomalies, you might want to send in an ambassador, even though it costs a capital ship slot, because it will be able to defend itself really well, and it will be able to simultaneously scan all of the anomalies, including, in this case, that one that's right over by the lightning, which would be very difficult for an Oberth to scan.
An Oberth? Oh, I need to change that ability
try.
point.
I mean, like, you breathe on an Oberth wrong, and they're gone.
Chat's asking, will the AI be able to use these tactics? And
Yes, they will be. We've tested this, and they can, which
AI
surprised us
does,
really.
in fact, use the anomaly system.
Which was like a deal break, which would make or break this entire mechanic. It was really one of the conditions which we had to get this to get this in game actually, because we wanted the anomaly to get this to work as well, to use this as well.
Now they won't fly around the lightning, but
yeah.
The lightning is spread out enough that hopefully they won't suicide whole fleets into it. They might lose the occasional ship to it, but
there's
not too bad.
That's a thorn. There's other things like, for example, there's a metaphasic particle. So this is in a friendly nebula, which won't hurt you.
Now, if you can find a comet, one of the ones in that cluster.
Metaphasic nebula can't hurt you.
One of these hydrazine gas, right? Spawn in an exploration ship near the hydrazine gas, and I'll show you something else that will be very cool with anomalies. So, not only will anomalies count as research labs, some anomalies will have a strategic resource effect that, when you capture it, grants a buff to all of your ships, or potentially all of your stations or planets, no matter where on the map they are, as long as you hold on to that specific anomaly. The hydrazine gas gives you a turn rate bonus. So this constitution has it, but every other ship that you have on the map will also have that turn rate bonus as long as you hold that hydrazine gas. It doesn't stack, so it encourages team games where if you have duplicates of the same anomaly, you can share them out between each other to make sure you've all got that strategic bonus. And there'll be various different bonuses depending on what kind of anomalies there are.
What's this weird asteroid? It's a uranium deposit. Let's get a
sneezed on it.
The current plan for fleet sizes at the moment, White Wolf, as Connor said, is similar to AOTF 1, but we are going a little larger. So you'll have 60 frigate class ships, and numbers not final, as well as between 10 to 20 capital ships, depending on which faction you are.
Mind you, the fact that the galaxy is not a Titan also allows you to have more than one galaxy class.
Yes.
I think
So
this
the,
one gives you
fleet-
more money, doesn't it?
Not at the moment.
Oh,
but it will.
it's planned, yeah. There's another one here.
Holding a-
Oh, that's broken.
I like
dear.
that one.
Damn!
I think the lighting's a bit balked on that one at the moment.
Planet Disco.
Working as intended.
I think we can show off some of the Cardassian stuff that we've done here as well. There's some Cardassian stations already in game. We've upgraded their frigate yards, and my personal favorite of how it turned out, I really love this new capital shipyard, inspired by Armada 2, but a little bit more Cardassianified.
Just fly
Now-
and steal half of it.
So to top off the anomaly system, something I worked out only yesterday. If you could go and spawn a Phoenix in somewhere, First Fleet Capital Science.
Not in there. Oh,
I think it does need it to be in here, didn't it?
And it doesn't really matter, but pick out the Drain Rift ability. Science ships, particularly science capital ships, will be able to create anomalies, dangerous anomalies like the nebula lightning, that will be temporary, indiscriminate forms of essentially placeable space terrain. You need to place it in the radius.
Yes, I know, that's why I'm
Whatever
moving it in
order.
closer.
Yeah. So the one we have at the moment on the Phoenix will drain antimatter of everything in its radius, including friendlies. So this can allow science ships to have a big impact on a battle. If the enemy has a Phoenix and they see you trying to cower over outside combat range, well, they might just drop a Drain Rift, name pending. Orion, you should come up with something better for that. That's my name that he needs to fix, by the way. It's not his fault. And when you place this down, that's space terrain for 45 seconds. And if you don't get out of it, well, you're going to lose a lot of antimatter, aren't you?
And
Each
you
of
know,
the
and
different science ships
races
will
like
have-
the Klingons, Romulans, or Cardassians might be a bit less friendly when it comes
Friendly.
to their training abilities.
Indeed. So this should make science capital ships very potent, despite not being particularly powerful in direct combat. Although the Phoenix is, because it's the nebula variant. Too soon for the Phoenix to be near Cardi's face.
Oh wow, that's ironic.
Minstrel boy.
Cool.
Hey,
It's all
Minstrel
fine.
Boy.
It'll be fine.
Able to comply.
But
Captain Max
I
Ford
think
out of there.
that's it for AOTF 2 at the moment, isn't it? Unless there's more we want to
Yeah.
talk about.
Enemy
Um,
colony has been destroyed.
I mean, I'm
Maybe we should open the
reworking
floor
just
for
about every area, but
Has anybody
those are the main new mechanics.
right now? If anybody in the chat has any more questions, please say them now so we can answer them as much as we can. As much as we can.
We'll give you guys a couple of minutes for that, and then we'll on to something else that we haven't
Yeah.
even mentioned.
Yeah.
Including hexapods.
Yes, Richard. This is Cardassian, so it's basically the mod starts from undiscovered country as our jumping off point, and the ending of the mod is around the best of both worlds. It should give you a hint as well of what else is coming.
About the same year scope as what the first AOTF was.
Yeah, that's a good. Do Bajorn's workers deserve rights? I'm gonna let that one be answered by Gull.
It wasn't no.
Oh, Draconian Gaming asks, "Are you abandoning the fourth race in AOTF 1?" Yes.
You handle that, Max.
Yes, we are. We felt it wasn't interesting enough compared to this. There might be a point where we still do it afterwards, but at the moment it's not planned.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a little bit of the groundwork for it, and we had come up with the plans, but where we hadn't kind of begun the modelling and the actual work, when we started getting very, very excited about this, we pretty much quickly decided that this gave us so much more of a scope of more interesting and fun things to do, especially with these new anomaly mechanics, and it being an era that we're so much love for, so much more fond of than the kind of the Enterprise era. These are the ships that we all grew up watching and still watching. So like getting pretty much a TMP era mod is just insane, and it's still blowing my mind.
All of us wanted it to do it as well for a long time.
Yeah, there was so much more excitement from our entire team thinking about building something that had that TMP and early TNG scope than the fourth race
much
for
more,
AOTF1. That we thought, yes, this will be the right way to go, and this will be the right decision to make. Now, elusively, Inept says, could you say what the fourth?
Oh wait!
race in
I want to just
AOTF1
answer the questions just as they were asked, because there were some other
Okay,
ones.
that's
That,
fine.
I'll
Yeah, you
cover
go
a
ahead.
few of those then. Will we still have fuel stations in the game?
yes.
The antimatter mechanic will be remaining. However, I have been doing a lot of work to make using abilities easier.
A lot more passive,
quite
isn't
as-
it?
Yeah, it's not quite as crazy in terms of number of clickable abilities or things you need to worry about autocasting in AOTF 1. It will be much easier to manage in AOTF 2. Borg Cube is random event.
Yes.
And it will kill you.
But note, it will be a best of both worlds style Borg cube or Q-Who Borg cube. And finally, what was the question? What would the fourth race of AOTF 1 have been, or can't you say? I think we're okay with revealing it. Does anybody else here have a problem with us revealing it?
I think it's reasonable to do so.
Yeah,
I can't tell them it was the Tribbles.
Just come out with it.
It was the Zindi. The Zindi were planned as the fourth race.
What other questions have we got?
Can I be a
Have we ever
tester?
considered
Not yet.
Terrans as playable faction?
That's a funny one. do you want to tell them that one?
we're just gonna cackle evilly about that and not tell you.
Yeah, that's one for another day.
Can you be a tester at one time, possibly?
Maybe.
Not yet. The game is
Um,
definitely not ready for testing yet.
Draconian asks, are there heroes planned for AOTF 2? We're thinking about it. We have some issues with, if we were to do it, we have some ideas about the roster, but it's kind of hard to really nail down all the heroes you'd want in this era. Just for example, with the Federation, which hero, which race, which sub-race has Picard, which one has Kirk. But then there's also the fact that, Kirk would be flying a Constitution, which is an exploration cruiser, which is a mid-game ship, while Picard would be flying...
Early game, actually.
But would Picard be flying a Constellation as a Stargazer, or would you be...
Would he be on the Enterprise D?
And of course, where the hell does Tasha Yar fit in this timeline?
Oh, no.
And then there's also the question like, well, what about Sulu? He was really prevalent in this timeline as well. And then there's the whole Harriman and Rachel Garrett, in between. So we're thinking about it, but we're not sure yet.
Tyson's just said that he saw some things back in the day in AOTF1 when he was a tester with his indie tag. Well, if anybody who has AOTF1 installed now went to the texture folder, you would see a lot of things with his indie tag still in, including the race select screen, which is just hidden at the moment. But all the textures are there, and they've been there since day one.
A lot of entities as well.
It was very easy to figure out once you dug into the files.
Yeah,
Thankfully,
for a
most of you
modder
don't
to
know
just
how
go
to
into
do
the
that.
texture folder, you would work it out within seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite a good question. White Wolf would like to know what made us think about the Discovery and do a redesign on it rather than using the one that they'd used in Discovery.
Because it's hideous in
Dear
Discovery.
Lord, does that need answering?
Because it sucks!
Speaking of hideous, there's something else on the screen
That's all I
that's
have to
also
say
hideous.
about that.
This is beautiful. The Cardassian Brennock battleship.
Look, it's got an app name as well.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't make it up.
Oh, jeez.
My son.
Max, use the ability. Multi-vector assault mode.
Shoot secondary
Uh,
torpedoes.
The Galore is a capital ship in
Yes.
this mod, in case anyone wanted to know.
All its effects are not done yet, except for the blinkies again, which is 4%. It's gotten some model upgrades in compared to STA3.
Interesting colour on the.
Yeah, we
spiral
actually
wave
didn't
on that
really
one,
answer that fully, did we? You really wanted to explore what you could do from kind of a Enterprise era standpoint with with the design scope that we all knew and appreciated. But
where
you
my
still
stations
wanted
go?
to use Discovery, didn't you?
They all got killed, Max. Remember? The Cardassians attacked.
Like they do.
Yeah, so with AOTF1, one of the main things we wanted to do was keep, and it's the same for AOTF2 and most of the work we do. We like to keep a kind of design lineage, and where Discovery, whether they say it is or not, has its own unique. I say unique. Air quotes unique visual
Unique
style.
is a very gentle word.
I'm so polite today. Unique visual style. And we wanted to kind of tie it back into what we know as the kind of the core original Trek design aesthetic, which every time you saw a Constitution class, it was the original series one. It fits in, Trials and Tribulations or whatever the DS9 one is, or
You said it right, Trials and Tribulation.
the second to last Enterprise episode. It looked like that. It didn't look like the one in Discovery, and therefore we kind of wanted to keep that bridge in between. So that was kind of why all the Discovery era ships in AOTF1 have had that kind of tweak design to them, kind of retweak to make them fit in a bit nicer.
Let's see wait. I want to answer another one that's question first. Sarismo said, "Isn't that just 3 Galores in a trench coat?" Yeah, kind of.
He's not wrong.
Balkan Okami asks, "I've always wondered if there was room for sort of ship-to-ship diplomacy options beyond Envoy's diplomatic immunity. Yes, it's possible to do that. However, it would be incredibly micromanaging in SINs, which is not something you'd want to do.
AI-wise, it would be troublesome as well.
Station.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be. I do
And
plan on making envoys much more interesting, but it probably will still be ship to planet diplomacy.
another question by Elusive Inept. I think that's the one you were going for, Chris. Speaking of redesigns, why were the Enterprise-era Romulan ships redesigned in AOTF1? Well, I guess it's literally the same reason why we redesigned the Discovery-era ships, because they didn't fit aesthetically within the time frame that the mod was set.
Yeah, I mean,
And
to
they
us,
fucking suck.
if you look at the Enterprise era Bird of Prey, it's a very Nemesis era looking ship, and
It does feel very advanced, doesn't it?
yeah, and when you take the we know the real world reason for them using the same uniforms from Nemesis and the same Romulan logo
Cheap.
from Nemesis.
Cheap.
But
Dollars.
we kind of in our headcanon put it down to temporal Cold War shenanigans of future Romulans giving past Romulans as maybe a bit of a head up or maybe a little bit of a steer here or there. But then we thought, with the discrepancies of when they should have cloaking devices, when they should be talking to people, we thought it would kind of be good to go off in our own direction there, and then it would fit in with the whole rest of their roster rather than having crazy advanced
Just
glowing
one
green
ship
ship.
sticking out like crazy. And it allowed it to have the Pernus as well, which is very important.
Well, it also gave us the option to kind of explore the Romulan Great Exodus and what their design lineage would have been from that point onward. Like with like the cabbage and all that. So it was quite nice to do that because it allowed us to explore kind of a backwards design lineage rather than a forwards one.
Same thing with the Cardassians, is where a lot of new Cardassian ships are going to be shown off once we get along. I don't know if I've got some things to show off. I think I've got some in my. Let me go and.
We do have more in game than we've shown, but there's
Yeah.
not a huge number.
They're quite exciting because we've only ever seen them on the shows in
Nothing
one
that
era.
I've got ready
So
here.
being able to go back and kind of work out where they came from and what they could have looked like is it's really fun, especially as we've got 2 whole rosters to fill. So it gives us a lot of creative freedom, which is
Balkan, to answer your question, no, we can't. That's might be doable, but again, it would be very micro intensive.
It wouldn't be fun.
So, to hit a few more questions, in terms of new dev streams, the reason we haven't been dev streaming is because we've been working on this.
And we didn't want to give it away.
Now that we've revealed this, we will absolutely be doing more dev streams.
If people cast their mind back on our Discord to when all our profiles changed to TMP era pictures, you can kind of get an idea of when we started working on this.
I've been Gorkon Gaming instead of Gowron Gaming for a while now.
Yeah.
And the funny part is, it was actually initially just a smaller group within Stellar Parallax that just knew about this at all.
Yeah, they couldn't even tell all of the devs.
Yeah, we're rude like that.
Peter Smith asks, any giant chunky Federation bases? Yes. The Mushroom will be in for the Federation.
Tokyo Drift Star Trek.
And it's going to have a super laser.
And sunglasses.
Strapped on underneath it.
Did someone
That's the first I'm hearing of that.
You may fire when ready.
I'm sure that's not true.
I haven't muted Tom.
Will ship types have their own unique voice or just a generic one? We've been scouring everything to find as many voices as we possibly can to make sure that
I think I can.
more unique voices.
Yeah, I think I can
At the
also show
moment-
off some new computer voices, can't I? Let's see. So, for example,
at the moment, all of the Fed ships have a unique voice within their own faction, but not between the factions.
there's also some new voice lines for the computer. So, for example, capital ships are referred to as cruisers by the computer. For example,
A cruiser has been constructed. Communications with a cruiser have been lost.
Grimlock says
Our
so
cruisers'
the fleet size is
shields
smaller
are
than
offline.
STA3 in scale. If you were to spam frigates in STA3, you could get more ships. But 60 cruisers plus 10 to 20 capital ships is still actually quite large fleets. They will certainly look like pretty big fleets on screen. that's perfection. So you could easily have 160 ships going at it against each other if you have, say, 2 Cardassians fighting each other.
But yeah, like for example, speaking of the abilities, like one of the micro things is, I think it's this one.
Yeah, attack pattern alpha
Is a passive ability which does drain antimatter, I think.
So I can get into that a little more. Rather than it being a thing you have to activate, it's instead always active as long as you have antimatter. But when it applies its effects, it will drain a small amount of antimatter. So in the case of that one, whenever you fire your torpedoes, you'll taunt the ship that gets hit by the torpedoes in the Akula. And when you fire the torpedoes and apply that effect, it'll drain about 10 antimatter. And when you've run out of antimatter, then the effect will no longer be active, and the ship will still have all of its normal weapons and everything. Oh, probably something worth noting. The anti-death ball mechanic that we have in AOTF 1, where the more ships you have closer to each other, the more they get debuffed. We have removed that.
Yep.
We found that it didn't actually stop death balling at all. And all it did was slow down the movement of fleets and clog up the stat cards so much that you couldn't really tell what buffs were actually on a ship at any given time. As well as the same thing is true of the damage effects. So ships will still suffer some effects when they take hull damage, but it's much less varied than AOTF 1. So you won't have like 10 different buffs as your ship.
Bruce asks an interesting question. Will the Constitution keep its Wrath of Khan phasers? Will it get traveling beams? It will get a different kind of phaser. It will be kind of TNG-ified, but if you like Starfleet Command 2 or 1, you'll definitely recognize the effect. It's kind of an in-between thing, but we're not going to show that off right now because I think it's time.
I think it's time. It is as well.
I think it is time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got something else to talk about, guys, and we better get to that before we run out of time.
It's we've got a little bit of surprise. Let's just start it up, shall we?
Yeah. Should we go to a different game?
Yeah,
let's go to a different game.
Let's go to a different
Are
game.
we bored of Sins, guys? I think we're bored of Sins.
Yeah, we're bored of Sins.
Yeah.
Let's do something
Time
else.
for a modern game.
Yeah.
What the
Time for
hell is
something
down
else.
on your screen?
I like thinking back 5 years ago.
No, 4. They just had their
Modern
4th year anniversary, so it's 4 years.
4 years, sorry.
So let's start up Stellaris.
Years. Could be worse.
Also, by the way, guys, wait till you see the Romulans for AOTF 2 because they've got a really cool ship. Orion, what's that other ship called?
The Midak!
Oh, goodness.
I think everybody, oh god.
Which you'll see pictures of on the ModDB page when that eventually goes up.
Who's that Romulan?
Oh, there you go. I can just use that video. I was talking about that earlier.
Oh, no.
Do it.
It's freezing. There we go. Tyson says, "Don't do this to me." But
Yeah, you just
Tyson, our goal is
game
to
and then you're just going to quit
confuse
it. And that's the end of the
Our
stream.
goal is to confuse you about which game you want to play in the next few hours.
So I think I better preface this. If you're willing to let me just do a quick preface and then you guys carry on because you know what you're talking about. So a few years ago, several members of the dev team, except for me because I refused, wanted to make something called Infinities, which would have been a total conversion to Stellaris. We got a little ways into that, and because of the nature of Stellaris and the extremely regular changes and very deep changes to the code, we found that or the guys who were working on it found that as a team, it wasn't tenable to keep up with that and work on the other projects that we were working on at the same time. Also, I think we were kind of knee deep in other projects that were maybe more important to us. I'm not sure at the time.
I don't know. Just
Yeah,
So Infinity's never got done, sadly, and we've always regretted that. And we spent a long time kind of occasionally bringing it up and thinking about it, and then putting it back on the back burner. And recently, which one of you was it that just
Bane
decided
came with
that
the
you couldn't
suggestion.
cope?
Bane came with a suggestion, and Hobbs and I went to town.
Yeah. So,
But,
why don't you talk about what it is?
Well, I'll let Hobbs do the talking because.
Yeah, so basically the good thing about Infinities was that it led to AOTF. Everything we made model-wise got used.
Literally everything.
So, you know, but a lot of things that we did learn and make artwork-wise didn't get used. So we thought, you know, it might be the time that we did start using that kind of stuff, and just you know, we've got a vast library of Star Trek models that we've created over the years for our various projects, and we thought, you know, the whole total conversion thing might be a bit out of our grasp, but one other thing that is insanely popular is using these stock game and choosing your own mods and applying your own ship sets. So
planet
how would
sets
a
and everything.
Parallax ship set look like? So we've put together for you, which will be on the Steam Workshop today,
In about half an hour, I guess.
TNG Federation ship set for Stellaris.
Yeah, which should be in the workshop any minute, and you should be able to just use and get. It's something to keep you entertained while you wait for AOTF 2.
Yeah, so we'll share the link to this on our Discord. I'll probably make it go live shortly. I'm pretty sure it works. I hope so.
so let's show some of the features which we've got,
yeah,
and some of the ships.
Show off some of the lovely models.
So let's unpause this, but let's give myself all the technology first.
I also
all the
like
resources.
that you loaded in, completely skipped my portraits and room background, but that's fine.
No, they weren't loaded in. You were talking.
People saw them. A little bit.
All of them? There's so many.
Not all of them.
So as you see the starbase, it doesn't have attached sections. We've chosen to go for little stations outside of it. You've got models again. These are the same as in STA3. Some are visually slightly updated. Some are made for Ages of the Federation 2. For example, this trade station here is one you'll be seeing in AOTF 2 as well. This little trade hub. Same goes for where is it? This little mining base here. But you don't care about all that. You want to see the pretty ships. You want to see the really, really pretty ships. But first, let's make sure we get enough tech to get ourselves a Colossus as well, because you gotta have the Colossus. Just get that, because this is one thing which I have to do before I can play the game, which is stupid, and I have to set it up to get 3 perks. Or at least 4.
I'm just waiting for. Oh, Tyson, this is quite funny. People were talking about ship sets for Stellaris earlier today. Oh, you have no idea. When we saw you guys talking about that, it was like...
Oh god, we can't. It's like they're going
to... the mouth. They're
going to be so excited when we do the stream, and, well, here we go.
So let's go to... oh wait, I get them, but let's assign the perks, so let's get that one. Let's get
Stellaris now.
Flesh is weak.
Grasp the void, technological ascendancy, and of course, where is the bastard Colossus project? Because we have a Colossus. Then once I've got the Colossus project, I need to get the situation log, select the Colossus project, research it, finish.
What was the announcement? The announcement was AOTF 2 and also Stellaris TNG ship set.
So let's have a look at the ship set, shall we? What you've got. So let's. It's a bit limited. So for the frigates, you've got your Saber for your interceptor, and your picket ship, and the steam runner as your missile boat. Your destroyer is the Intrepid. Now, unfortunately, due to the ship mechanics, you can only have 1 ship model per class, with a small exception. For the cruiser, you've got the Akira. Now, because this is stock Stellaris weapons, some of the weapons will look a little wonky. We tried to put them on some of the really accurate weapon points. Now, for the Galaxy, let's just quickly grab the normal Galaxy. Look at it. You got a normal Galaxy, right? But say you wanted, instead of 1 aft point, you wanted 2 side points. Hey, look, you got your Venture Galaxy.
That's what
Um,
we did.
But
there we go.
the battleship has a spinal mount. So what happened? Oh God, we got and done it, didn't we? We put the damn Galaxy X in game. You can finally get the Galaxy X with spinal mount because it made more sense than having a Giga cannon coming from your deflector.
Best of both worlds.
Best, worst. Then your Titan is your Sovereign. And then your defense platform, which I'm really happy with how this works, is you can pick whichever section you want, and that will show up on said side, so you can get up something like this.
It's so happy.
Then we've got an ion cannon, which is a nice big gun thing. Then there's the Juggernaut, which is the Excalibur, which is now more powerful
New
than ever.
Excalibur model.
Then there's a
that
Colossus, but let's not look at the Colossus here. Let's build a Colossus and see what it is. But before we do that, we've got to upgrade our starbase, don't we? So this is a Starhold, and the outpost looks the same. Let's upgrade the Starhold to a Starhold. Oh, look at that. It's mostly a Veneer space dock. Well, let's upgrade that again to a Star Fortress. That's got more stuff now. What about a Citadel? Well, yeah, look at that. So,
The mushroom.
let's build a gun battery for it, right? Oh, look at that's a little defensive station that spawned. What about an anchorage? Oh, look, it's another station right there. What about another shipyard? Oh, look, another shipyard. Another shipyard. Look at that. Oh. So let's give this thing a Colossus yard, shall we? And Titan yard. And let's give it a listening post. Our Naval Logistics Office. Now I'm going to need some resources again. There we go. Let's build a Colossus. Why is it called a Towed Science Ship? The Towed Science Array? Because, well...
Jesus.
Because, well, the only thing that would work for something that shot a giant beam in Trek would be, well, the Midas Array. But the Midas Array can't move on its own.
That's so amazing. I haven't even seen this.
Thanks for popping in, Schism.
So the Midas Array is towed by nothing other than an Oberth. So you know you've got an Oberth planet killer.
Can you go play something up with
It's time for revenge.
So let's test that out, right? Let's crack Venus.
Let's blow up Venus because why not?
Fuck you, Venus.
Drop it like a bomb on it.
Venus killed my father.
Good gravy.
I mean, this is why the Kardashians were always annoyed it was so close. I'm like,
No, that was the Argus
somewhere
Array.
else.
That's different. The Argus Array is even worse. Argus Array can track stars. Oberth of Doom, yes.
Tyson, now this is the danger, Oberth.
The revenge of the Oberths. Why is
Yeah,
that
it was
planet
actually an Oberth that did Praxis, don't you know?
Now who's an explodium, eh?
Grimlock is just asking quickly. Says, will there be more added for a full conversion again, with more Trek races? Do one of you guys want to field that at all?
Hobbs?
Yeah. So no, that's not the plan right now. The plan right now is to complete more ship sets. How many and how often is still to be decided because our main focus is going to still be
AOTF2?
AOTF2 and the subsequent patches for SDA3 and AOTF1. That's going to be the team's main priority, which is why you won't be looking at fancy new events or no Trek weapons right now, but it potentially could be on the cards. We're mainly looking at just porting the models that we already have in the quickest way, so you can get more packs quicker. You can use it with the mods you already like, and but still to a standard that we're happy with.
Do you want to jump out to the nation creation menu and show elusively inept the customization that we have in there?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Let's first spawn a
have
few of
you
the ships in
Yeah,
just to
if
show
you
them all off.
if you want Spawn in one of each.
And let's spawn in the science and a colony ship. Right now it's a bit limited. Our transport and our colony ship do share a model at the moment. It's a model that was actually built initially for Infinities.
But they will be changed when we finish some of the models for AOTF 2, which will be appropriate.
Yeah, so rather than put in models that we're not happy with, we're gonna just update these packs as and when more stuff is available, rather than just chuck in stuff that won't look as good next to the other models.
And one of the really enjoyable things about Steam Workshop is if we note something that we're not happy with at any point, it can often be quite a quick fix and a small update to the pack that we already have in place. So you'll find if you see any problems knocking around, it's likely something that we'll be able to fix relatively quickly, as opposed to, for example, with the Sins mods that we work on, sometimes it can be a little while between updates. So that's quite a nice feature of the Steam Workshop.
Yeah, definitely. It will little and often will be the workshop way, as opposed to big massive updates less often. Yeah. Look at that Galaxy X in a game
that you can play with.
In? I want to see the tiddly phases.
Oh, yeah. Now, I think one of the important things to note is that part of the reason that we wanted to go with like the ship pack and do it this way is because we're very aware. I mean, a lot of us, I don't think all of us, but a lot of us play Stellaris ourselves, as you can probably tell, given that Max has got the game. And part of the joy of Stellaris is combining a load of different mods to create the environment that you want. So having the ships that you want, with the uniforms that you want, with the type of faction that you've designed that works for your playstyle, with the planets that you want, that you've chosen, is fundamentally going to make your experience better. And total conversion's a lovely thing, but having that adaptability to be able to change different elements of your game, I think, is going to be a real positive for the community.
I personally think that mixing and matching is heresy. But
I know you hate it. I know.
But who doesn't want to fight against the Systems Alliance with the TNG ships?
Me.
People can now finally do their
code mind with you.
People can now finally have their Star Trek versus Star Wars experience, and we wouldn't have to worry about the balancing.
Yes.
We don't have a Treknology. We don't have a Treknology pack yet, but it's something we might do in the future.
Yeah, so do you want to go to the menu and show the customized ability that we've put in at the moment?
I am running low on time, by the way, just for the record.
Yeah, okay, so at the moment, if you go to appearance, it looks like 4 uniforms at the moment. That's because 3 of them aren't complete yet. The Nemesis uniform, which is the one furthest to the right.
Furthest to the right?
Yeah, so you've got all your different specialties. You've got Cisco's cool swanky jacket. I think Picard uses one of those as well. Maybe in...
Yeah, I think an Insurrection he does.
First Contact, I think he probably uses it. And then you got Admiral Ross's cool uniform as well. We've got a Trek-inspired name list in there. We've got a room background in there. We haven't got a city background yet, but that's on the cards as well. Yeah, so the other uniforms will be DS9 and the TNG ones as well. And there's a smattering of flags as well to choose from that just come included. I think I forgot to include the Cardassian ones. Interesting.
Again, future.
This is just a dial.
Yeah, this just so for reference, this mod for Stellaris has been pumped out in what?
A week.
A week?
Yeah, this patch is a week.
It's like essentially the first Stellaris mod we've put out at all. So there might be a few missing bits and pieces, and it's been done very quickly.
Yeah. So over the next couple of days, expect some new topic sections to appear on our Discord if you're not already on there. So any feedback, suggestions, all that kind of good stuff can appear on there, and then we can look at fixing out and ironing out any issues, and also just finishing some other bits that we started that we haven't quite got there at the moment. But we thought best not best not let you wait. Let's put it on the workshop. So
There you go.
Yes. I think there's one more
So-
thing, isn't there, that we want to talk about?
Is there?
there is the one more thing, which is that for a lot of, we've been making mods as Stellar Parallax for in entirety for nearly a decade. We do it for free. We do it because we enjoy doing it. But there has been occasions when people have asked, would they like to support us in some way with a little tip? And normally we've always said, no, you don't pay for what we do. It's because we enjoy doing it. But now we've put together a Patreon, which I will share the link for. And
Completely voluntarily, by the way. This is not something you have to do. It's just if you ever feel like giving us a tip, or if you feel like helping us out financially in some way.
Yeah, and it's just
the mods remain free.
Yeah, the mods will always be free. We'll still make what we're going to make, and paying won't suddenly give you early access or give you a development say. But if you would like to show your appreciation for all the years that we've put into this, then this is your way to do that. And we still love this community, and if you don't, there's no issue with that. It's just that the option is now there. If you would
There
like
are
to.
some small perks that you get, though. If you
Yeah,
do,
there are. Yeah, it's important to state that we will never sell any of the products that we are making, when it comes to the mods whatsoever. That's something that we couldn't do, and we wouldn't want to do, because we like what we do as it stands. Some of the little perks that we want to give people who join us on Patreon are, I think a good example of that is we've talked about kind of allowing people to watch us in development if they choose to, or certain tiers of the Patreons.
Yes, you get some more Discord access to a special segment. There's some 3D renders that you can get.
Yeah, there's some. There'll be a topic where, say, we would like some feedback on a feature we're kind of thinking about, but it's not public yet. We might put a poll out to you guys, or
non-binding poll.
Sorry.
Non-binding.
A non-binding poll. Yes, there is that caveat that we're still developing what, at the end of the day, what we find fun, and what hopefully you guys find fun as well. But yeah, so there'll be some Discord roles. There'll be a little Discord section where if you want to ask us some questions, we can answer those at the start of the next stream, and some bits.
Somebody, Grimlock said you could always make merch. I think a Counterpuncher shirt will do very nicely, or a mug.
I think it would. I think it would.
I ain't even mad.
I'd like a mug collection drawn by Gull.
Done.
Done.
No.
I want a colouring book for every episode of Voyager. Each episode
With an accurate
one of
torpedo
those.
count on it.
One of those, eh?
Beginning with the Tuvix episode.
No, beginning with Threshold. That piece is just. Woo.
Disgusting.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for your time and for coming and watching us.
Yeah, we hope you really enjoyed
Really
it.
good to have you all here.
It's,
Another thing I'd like to just kind of put on right at the end as a caveat here is we're going to try and be a little bit more active in the way that we communicate with you guys moving forward. So I've posted the link several times to our various pages and to our Discord. We're also going to be looking to try and increase our Twitter presence. We've never really done any of that. There is a link there if you want to follow us on Twitter. We're going to try and do a little bit more with the YouTube channel as well. I think it may be that, like, periodically we release short, kind of 5 or 10 minute videos that kind of deal with a specific mechanic in one of the mods and explain it, kind of in a scripted and clear manner, so you can best understand how to play.
Instead of us rambling about like we always do.
And I will be planning on increasing my publicity or publicness, however the hell you say it, with my design thoughts in both this mod and other mods that I work on, to help give people a little bit of insight into why I do the crazy things I do, possibly how, if any Sins modders would
Right,
like
guys,
to know.
but we do have to wrap it up because I do have a train to catch, unfortunately.
Literally.
Yes, literally. So we hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll see you on our next stream. And
Yep.
we will be sharing the link for the ship pack on our Discord.
But you also see it in the top 5 because it's going to go mental, right, guys?
Make sure it does. Make sure it does. Share and like and favorite and do all those things that people
and
Like,
subscribe
comment,
and
yeah.
Like, comment,
Yeah.
subscribe,
Ding that bell. Ding the bell.
shove it up Reddit's arse.
ding the bell. Yeah. Adios, people.
All right, take it easy, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you
Thank you
again.
so much.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
And it's done.